Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for another Journaling on a Budget memory lane. So last week we did the collage for the first page of our journal, and so this is where we will put our pockets and decorated pages for our journal, and I love the way that turned out. I think it turned out really nicely. And after we were done, I had parchment paper under there and I just put a heavy book on it and just let it sit. So I really do like to do that. It makes everything dry more solid and dry flatter. So, and then what we discussed that we were going to do was, I thought that this week we would work maybe on this page, which is our journal is right here, or I mean our map is right here. And so I thought we would go ahead and get that page done so that as we're working on our book, we know what that's going to look like. So I went through both of the books, the circus book and the railroad book, and looking for pictures, and I found what I really thought I would like to use. So I looked at this one, which I really love this picture. I think it's great. But because I want to put it on here and I want to cover the box, if I were to put it on there, we would cut it off here to fit on the cardboard, and then this is what would be left to put on the box or put something else on the box. So I pulled it out because I thought that would really be kind of cute right there, but I continued looking because it wasn't the perfect thing. And as I went through, I found the perfect thing. And this is it, because this goes top to bottom. And if you put it on here, it is enough to cover the back of our map and to cover our pen box. And what that will do then is it will look kind of like a continued picture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off this white bit here, and that should make it just the same width as our cardboard by that. Oh, I did want to show you too. I'll show you this before we get started. Another thing that I found that I really loved was this. Isn't this awesome? So I took the stitching out of the book in order to take this out because I did not want to try and cut it out or rip it out. I didn't want to lose much of the picture, knowing that, it was already put onto 2 pages. But when I looked closely, I think that if I trim off this white bit off of this one, I think that what's going to happen is I think that is going to fit perfectly onto the one next to it. So I don't think that we were missing part of the picture in the middle. I actually think that one will fit right up against this one without having that white line down the middle. So this one I'm going to put in the back of our book. I haven't decided exactly how yet because I really want to be able to see the whole thing. And yet the whole purpose of a lap book, which is what's over here, or even a journal, is to have tuck spots and writing spots and that type of thing. So I'm thinking maybe like a pocket on these 2 sides, or maybe something that flips down and has pockets or whatever in it, but then flips up so that you can see this whole picture. And I think that's probably like what I think I'm going to do. Originally, I thought pockets on both sides, but then when you stick stuff in the pockets, it's covering this up. But if it's a flip, this whole thing will be exposed. So I think that's what we're going to do in the lap book section, is we're going to put this in and we're going to put flips on both sides so that it's still useful and yet it's still beautiful. So I thought I would show you that because I was really excited when I saw that they actually are going to fit together. Okay, so let's get back to what we're doing today. So I'm going to just trim it right along between these 2. And I do cut kind of slow because I am such a crooked cutter. And I do have a 12 by 12 paper cutter, but it's not on my table here. And my smaller paper cutter won't quite fit the length of this page. So, yeah. It's still very crooked. There was a line and everything to follow. But that's just, you know, we all have our thing. Alrighty, so I'm going to butt that right up to the edge of the other page. Put this right on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to butt this up to the top. Making sure it's pretty even on that cardboard. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open this. That'll work. Butt it up to the top. Hold on to it nice and tight. And then grab my pencil, which was just right here. There we go. Get the map out of my way. And I'm going to just draw along the bottom of the cardboard. Now I have to be careful because I have to remember that I'm using both pieces. Now that is small enough to fit in my cutter. So that I am going to use the cutter to keep it nice and straight. And then I'm pretty sure I'm going to hold this up to here. Yes, that will fit on our box also. So I'm going to just line up that line. Put it off. Oh, and now that this is shorter, and I know that that's straight because I just cut it, I'm going to trim this just a little bit. Just because it was so crooked. There we go. That's better. Don't lose this piece because that's the piece that's going to fit on our box. It's a little bit tall. So I'm going to just kind of press along the bottom of this box. That. So that's where I'm going to want to cut that one off. And that's perfect length for the box also. So awesome. So that's going to look really cute there. And grab my sandpaper. What I'm going to do, we're going to glue this on here. But remember, we taped this in with shiny tape. And so I am going to rough up that shiny tape a bit to hopefully make our glue stick a little better in that area. Not much sandpaper right there. I'm going to turn it around. Let's see. There. I don't want to sand much right here on the edge because right here on the edge, if you sand on that edge, I'm not going to sand there at all. Not much, not at all. If I sand on this edge of the clear tape, I will sand it right, how do I want to say it? It will cut it, and that will make it loose. But here in the middle, and all the way up to this edge over here, I can go ahead and I can sand it and just rough it up a bit. I don't want to remove it all. I just want to rough up the top. Just scratch it because the glue will kind of get down in those scratches. And help hold that down. So now let's make sure that we wipe that off so that we don't defeat the purpose by putting glue on there and having it full of paper dust. Okay, I'm going to tuck our little ribbon down inside our box. And then we'll finish this box off too when we're done. Alrighty, I'm also going to tuck the little flap down inside our box, just because I don't want to get it all glued up with this. Okay, so there we go. Our map is underneath this, and so I don't it is nice and solid, but I am going to put the parchment underneath, even though the map is attached, so that I don't get the glue out on the edges of the book. Just going to hold that back, and that looks good. Okay, we're going to hold this up here and see how it fits. Can you see the whole thing? I think so. We'll let that there. How's that? That's a little better. It's the hard. That's the only thing about trying to record when you're doing a lap book is they're big when they're all opened up. But that's the other cool thing about them is they're big when they're all opened up, but actually they close up to be the size of a normal journal. Okay, so yep, that looks like it's going to fit just fine. So I'm going to just take some of our wet glue and put it on here. I want to make sure that I get enough, but I don't want it squashing out all over the place. And then I am just going to spread this around. Oops. See, that's why I put the parchment out there, because I just threw a whole ton of it out there. That was silly. I don't want it to get on our map, which is right underneath of here. And get this right onto out to the edge. We can always wipe it off if we get a little bit too much, and I will do the very edges after I get the whole center done. Now this is going to want to curl up because it's wet glue, so when we are all done here, I will again put a heavy book on top, and I have way too much glue on here, so I'm going to kind of smooth it out and take some of that excess off. You can just leave it here and use it in a few minutes. I'm going to come down here and do the edges, because you want to make sure you get right out to that edge, which is another good reason to have that parchment paper there. So you can just go right off the edge, because you don't want it to lift up. And again, if it lifts up after it's dry, if you find a spot that's lifting up, just go ahead and put some glue on there. I'm going to open this up just a little bit to get this bottom edge, because especially this bottom edge is going to be kind of, it's not really going to be touching the box. It doesn't quite touch, but it almost touches, and it's going to be opened and closed and opened and closed, so we definitely want to make sure that we've got glue down there. Alrighty, so now we're going to I'm going to start at this corner because I know that it fits. Start at that corner, line up the outside edge, make sure that it's straight at the top. With wet glue, you've got a few minutes to slide it around a bit. But when you thin your wet glue out like this, it grabs quickly. So you want to make sure that you get it where it needs to be. And now I want this one. And then just give it a good press. If you have any wrinkles, kind of help press those out. Make sure that the whole thing is coming into contact with the glue underneath. And I always try and press the center first. Go from the center out for two reasons. Number one, if you push towards the center in, you might wind up with a great big wrinkle in the middle, or a big puddle of glue under your paper in the middle. So you don't want to do that. And for the fact of then once you get to the edge, and you start smoothing down the edge, you may get glue on whatever you're using to spread, and so you don't want that to get all over your paper. So then just wipe it off as you go. And there we go. So So now we have got that. I think that looks so cute. I love it. And then this is going to go on our box. And see, isn't that cute how that just extends right down like that? So we're just going to use the glue that we've already got on our spreader since we used too much before. Just take this and spread it out. Again, make sure you get the edges. Make sure that it's not too thick. I need to make sure that I have all of the edges. So there we go. Looks like that's everywhere. Wipe a little bit off there on the bottom. Get the glue off my hands. And I'm going to press this down. Making sure I line up at the top of my box. And try and line the lines up. And so there we go. That looks really good. I like how that has turned out. And then if we open our book up, now when we open the book, this looks very interesting instead of seeing that cardboard right there. Sometimes you need to, like, if you're opening up your book and you're looking and thinking, you know, this is so bland or blah or whatever, it's because of where you're opening the book to. Every time I opened up this page, we had a colored piece of paper here, which was nice, but we had this big piece of cardboard over here, which was really bothering me. Like, it was just like, ew, that's not even pretty. I don't, you know, didn't like the looks of it. And so then do that page next so that when you open up your book, you look at it and you think, cool, because I'll tell you, every time I open it up and look at this page, I really like it. You know, I mean, that page just really, like, brought me back to, like, I really want to keep working on this because, you know, I love how that turned out. So, and also we are going to attach our little ribbon on here, but I'm going to do that in a second because I want to clip it down, and it will be in my way once we do clip it down. Because I also want to, I'm going to move my glue spreader. I'm going to try sliding this under my tripod. It's the hard part if you have a tripod on your table. You have to work around it. Okay, so this is our map behind here. And so what we want to do is we want to put something to hold it closed. Now, here's my thought. Right now, because we used wet glue, this is damp. And so now I'm thinking, because what I want to do is I want to, whoops, making a mess. I want to use some elastic. Open this up. Maybe if let me do this for right now. I want to put some parchment paper here. Oop, that parchment paper's got glue on it. Hold on, I need to fold it the other way. And I do apologize if you don't like the crinkle. I really like the crinkle. I like the crinkle when packages open. I don't know what it is. I just like that sound. I like the feel of crinkle too. But, so I'm going to open this up. And because it's flat underneath of there, because all we have under there is our papers, I am going to, for right this second, I'm going to put this dictionary on here so that we can do a little bit, give that a little press. Let's see, it comes all the way out to here, so I want the book to come out that far. Okay, I'm going to put a loop of elastic here so that when we close that map, we can loop it over and we'll have a button on the map that the loop can go around. So we will do the loop right now. We will do this right now. And then maybe we'll put the button on next week. So let's see, what do we need? We need, this is just stretchy string. The same as what I used for the center writing book, the center writing journal. And I don't want it super long. So I'm going to glue it here. And our other page comes right out towards the edge. So it's going to be glued down to there. And then it's going to need to go over and loop around a button. So that is probably a good length right there, because I want the button towards the edge of the other side also. I don't want to have it in the middle of the page. It still is going to go on one, the button will be on top of one of our elephants, but that's okay. So we're going to put this right here. And then as we hold that down, it's going to come over because it's stretchy. I think that that looks pretty good. And so now I have to decide, what am I going to hold it down with? Now there's two things. Number one, I'm going to use E6000 to glue this together because it's going to be used, you know, opened and closed. So I need to, let's see, I do have a pair of pliers. I was going to open it with my teeth. We all know we're not supposed to do that. And these are smooth pliers. Well, that doesn't do you a whole lot of good, does it? What else do I have? Okay, I got it. I won't tell you how. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit of E6000 here. And then this is going to go in the E6000. Now, because it's not going to want to stay there right this second, I'm not going to worry about it right this second, but that's where that's going to go. And actually, I need a little E6000 above and below where that's going to go so that we can glue something on top to hold it. Okay. There's a little bit much there because it's oozing out. So I thought that I had this bit, and I thought about putting that there, but that's kind of busy. It's got little people on it and stuff, you know, which doesn't really go with that. So I thought that I would use a piece of this wall, and I don't really want much. I think maybe about that much. Hey, that's pretty straight. And then that's going to go there. So it's a little bit wider than I want it. So that's not bad. And then I think it's a little too long. So that looks pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to round the corners. You can do it just by hand. I have a little corner chomper thing here. I don't like that corner. It's too small. Let's try this one. That's better. That's not, there we go. Okay. So it rounded it off and it left little extra bits. So we'll just cut those off because they were actually kind of neat looking if they were like, if they weren't all messed up. They're not supposed to, that's not supposed to cut that way. So, okay, so that's going to fit right there. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this, I'm going to stick it on there. Because with a lot of these really strong glues like this, they tell you to put it on both sides and let it sit for a second. So what I'm doing, because there was so much there because it was oozing out, I'm going to close this now. I'm actually just putting the glue. I'm going to go this way because it gets a little stringy. I'm putting the glue on the back of this card. That's what I was doing by setting it down there before I did the other. Because that way, I'll just let that sit for just a few minutes. And then I'm going to clamp it down after I get it on there. So now the question is 2. This is white thread. It's really white. And I don't know that I want it that white, so I'm thinking that maybe we'll just dye it with, I've got Distress inks here, but Distress inks are water-based, which means that if they get wet, they'll bleed. So these inks are a dye ink. And I am pretty sure, these are very nice inks. You know, I said something on one of my videos, and I don't know, I think it must have been one of these videos, about a bunch of them were dried out. They're dried out. They're not dried out. They're used up. There's a difference. And if they're dried out, you can just spritz them with a little bit of water, or depending on the type of ink it is, a little bit of, I can't think of it, rubbing alcohol. If it's a permanent ink, that will kind of reconstitute it. But when they are used up, that means there's no ink left in them. And I bought these a long time ago in the very first Build Your Stash series. So I have just used them so much throughout that series that I'm going to try doing it this way. That I have just used up the ink that's in them. And when you use up the ink that's in them, that's pretty much just, you know, that's just kind of it. The ink is gone. But some things have re-inkers, and you can buy re-inkers for them. I don't think that I have ever done that. But, you know, but that is a possibility. Whoops, pulled the pad right out. Okay. So this is a dye ink, so this should dye it and not make it, there's like, it's really white right here. This should dye it, and the color should not go away if it gets wet, or get all over you if it gets wet. Not 100% positive, but that's my thinking since it says dye. So, and I'm going to take a paper towel and grab one of these and just kind of stretch this out just to kind of dry it and maybe wipe off any excess. And also maybe kind of, because there were like really dark spots and stuff, maybe kind of blend those together just a little bit. But it just looks a little bit vintage. So to me, that's just a little better than if it was just pure white. Oh yes, I like that a whole lot better. So now this has set long enough, I'm sure. So I'm going to put this in here. And then we'll put this on the top. And I just rounded those edges to make it, oh, let's try, maybe put a little ink on the edges. I rounded the edges just so that they wouldn't be like right, to me, a point. Sometimes it's just very like stark, kind of like, I don't know how to say it, in your face or something. It's just there. Where the rounded edges are just, they're softer. And so I rounded them for that reason, and so that it would bring them back away from the picture that we have here a little bit. And so now we're going to put that on there just like that. It's not touching our horse anywhere. It's right up to the edge of the book. And then I'm going to take a couple of these clamps and clamp it down. Okay. Because that string is holding it up in the middle, it would be hard even to put a book or something on top of it to hold it together. So it would just kind of press on the middle, and the whole piece of cardboard would just stay straight. So with a clamp on each side, that will hold that down. Now, I believe I got these clamps at the Dollar Tree years ago. I haven't seen them like this recently, but they have all sorts of clamps. They have chip clips, and they have clamps in their craft department. So, and you can use paper clips, not paper clips. Well, you could use a paper clip, actually. You can use clothespins. Clothespins make a great clamp. They're pretty strong. And you just need something to push that down and hold it while that glue is drying. It's not going to go down in the middle. The cording is under there, and it's a nice strong cording, so it's not going to smoosh flat. So that's okay. But yeah, clipping things, weighting them down, that is your best friend in making something that stays together. I know that sometimes, you know, you don't want to wait. There's lots of times I don't want to wait, but it really is the thing that makes it so that whatever you're making doesn't fall apart. And, you know, obviously you don't want it to fall apart. If it does, you can always go back and fix it later. But, you know, it's better not to have to do that. Now, maybe we'll do something on the top of this box. I don't know. I can't see it right now to tell. Now I've put that ribbon, there it is. All right, so now what I've done is we sewed the button on our ribbon. And what I did was I took some Velcro from the Dollar Tree. It was a circle. And what I did was I just cut the circle in half. I put half here, and I put half on the box in the back. I put it on my ribbon. I did not attach it down because I knew that I was going to put this on here. So I knew I had to have this on here before I attached this down. The Velcro, because otherwise the Velcro would be covered up when I put this on. And if I had put the Velcro on first, I would just have to cut around it before I glued this down. But I did think about it. So now what I need to do is we've got our ribbon. I'm going to take my pen, I'm going to put it in, and I'm going to push it all the way to the bottom of the box and hold it there so I know where this belongs. Because that's what the ribbon is for the pen to go in there and sit on the bottom of the box. So that is going to go right there. So the button is going to be pretty much in the middle of this line of words. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this piece off. And what I did with that was, now that was on ribbon, so I could have sewed it, but we already sewed the button on there. But even though these are sticky on the back, I don't trust them. So I do use E6000 on these because it's something that's going to be opened and closed so often. I don't want to just count on the stickiness on the back of the Velcro, even if it's a really good Velcro. You know, it doesn't have anything to do with this was from the Dollar Tree because, you know, really to me, I think a lot of this stuff is exactly the same at the Dollar Tree as other places. Some of it may not be, but a lot of it I have really found to be just as good. All right, so now I have to decide what to do. I think I am going to put it back on here for just a minute and just set it on there. I don't need to push it tight. Push my pen back to the bottom of the box. Make sure that I have my ribbon kind of lined up with the ribbon above it. And put that right there. I'm not pushing hard because I don't want those Velcros to really attach to each other. And then hold down the bottom bit and take off the top bit. Okay, so there we go. Now, that should be, when it dries, that should be really good and solid. And what I did with this after I glued it, I put one of those clamps on it. Now, those are the only 2 clamps I have here, so I will, after we're done, I'm going to go and I will put a clamp on there just to hold it till it dries, and I will put a piece of parchment paper, and just so I don't forget, I will be putting this parchment paper on here so that I don't glue the clamp to that piece of Velcro, because that's kind of fabricy, and so I wouldn't want that E6000 to soak through and grab my clamp. E6000 will glue anything, and technically I should have actually put a little bit of parchment here, but I can tell that these are both completely on top of the cardboard, and there's no E6000 on the top, and it can't soak through the cardboard and the paper and everything. So we have that, and then we will put a button on the other side. And so I think what we may do is, because I want to be able to take the clamps off, pull on this and bring it over here to make sure exactly where, well, you know, this should be just fine. So if we take that and we put it there, so we need a button that's going to go right there. So we want a button that's a little bit bigger than that. And so let's look. I grabbed out my button bolt. Oh, I had to show you this because I thought they were so cool. It was like, oh, those would make really cute clamps. I don't remember where I got these. I got them somewhere. 90 cents. Oh, I got them at the craft outlet. And so I thought, oh, that would be cute, but it is a shank button, which a shank button's not going to work for what we're doing here. But I'm going to keep those out with this set because little lions, I mean, might have a place that we could put those. So I think because we're going to come out here, I'm thinking that I want a gray button. And so that's a brown one. I mean, brown would be okay, but I really think that a gray one would be better. And we need one that's a little bit bigger than our loop, so that our loop kind of goes under it and stays where it's supposed to stay. There's a piece of here. See, this is really pretty too, but in order to sew that shank on there, that just wouldn't work very well. And see, I need to see if it's bigger than our loop also. It's that one. That one might be, it's kind of a navy blue. I think I like that one better. So you just kind of try them out until you think, okay, that one's perfect, that one's too big. And then when you find the one that you really like, then you just sew it on. That's green. No, I don't want green. We also could maybe do something in the yellowish tones, but, you know, to me, I think that would stand out too much on the elephant, whereas this one, it blends in a little bit better. And that one's a little brown, but I don't really see that I have any, I don't really have any gray buttons. So that one's kind of tan. I think I still like this one better. So I think that that is the button that we will choose for that spot, because I can't, everything that's gray, here's, I just saw another little gray one. And the shanks do work good, like, because they kind of hold it up a little bit, but just in this case, it would just be too bulky. And I think I would have a hard time sewing that shank down to through the cardboard, because I'll have to use my pokey tool to poke a hole. Okay, we're going to stop looking. And, whoops, use that one. And then I have to figure out, because I don't want to pull this really hard, but do I think that this will stretch enough to pull over the button if I put it right there? And I do think that it will. Okay, so that's where the button is going to go. And then, let's see. Oh, well, that's not good, because I must have my pokey tool out here somewhere, but I don't see it. Wonder. Okay. All right, it's not in there. It can't, because it has a bright orange handle. So I am not sure what I did with it. I'm going to take a pen and I'm going to see, does that look pretty centered? Yes. Is it a little bit further than where this folds out to? Because after you stretch this over and let it go, you want it to go back under the button at least a little bit. So that is right here, and then the end of the button is over there just a little bit. So that seems to be a good spot for it. So let's see if this pen will go through the button. I think it is. Nope, it did not. Just there was one little spot right there. Oh, I know. I'm going to make that spot bigger. Not with that end. This end is a brush tip, so this should go through. There, so that hopefully I can line that button right back up there. There. Oh, and I was holding it so good last time, too. Okay, there we go. There we go. There's where our 4 holes are going to go. And then I'm just going to sew the button on with black thread. And let's see here, we have our map on here too. So the holes are going to come through right here. This is part of our farm, so we will hide the thread with something in our farm to cover it up after we sew the button on. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to punch holes with a hole punch so that it will be easier to sew. I'm going to sew this button on here with black thread after this is all dry, because I don't want to put the button on right this second with this still being as damp as it is. So I am going to open this back up and put the book on it. And even though we definitely want to go farther, we're not going to until we let that dry for a while, and then I'll put the button on. And I'll put the button on before we come back, because you've all seen me sew a button, so you know exactly what I'm going to do. But that does help keep the videos from being super, super long. So this is here. So yep, that looks like it's in a good spot. And I will grab a clamp for that, let this stuff dry for a while. So when I come back next week, I don't know exactly what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out then. Thank you very much for stopping by. If you want to know when I put up a video, you can click the bell button, and that way YouTube will announce that I do have a video up. And if you give me a thumbs up, that helps. Leave a comment, that helps. And watch a few commercials here and there, and that also helps. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.